Hi guys, how's it going today? I'm going to bring my microphone in a bit closer. Should have done that before we started. How are you today? It is a hot, hot day here in Spain, which makes me happy. Blue lights. I haven't seen blue lights. This is I'm guessing it's something to do with emergency services or the police. But yeah, is it good? Would you recommend it? So today we are doing a conditionals Q&A. So that is a question and answer session. Hi Tanya, how's it going? I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so we're doing a conditionals Q&A. That means that you are welcome to ask me any question relating to conditionals in English grammar. Christoph, hello. Thank you for joining me. Yeah, so conditionals, we've got 0, first, second, third. We've also got mixed conditionals. I mean, there's a lot to unpack with conditionals. So I'm sure you have a lot of questions. Hopefully you have some at least. A police drama. Yeah, I thought that might be the case. Ah, Belfast. Okay, so that's why you were thinking about Irish English. Gritty and gripping sounds good. The best police drama that I've seen, maybe I would say The Wire. That's really good. I would recommend that. I'll put the name in the chat. So yeah, if you like police dramas, check out The Wire. It's really good. Right, I have a question for you. Naram, hello, thank you for joining me. So I'm going to get the ball rolling here with a conditional question. If you had a YouTube channel, what would you talk about? Maybe some of you do have YouTube channels. I don't know. Let me know. Let me know. So here's our question. This is, which conditional is this? Which conditional? We're imagining. We can also, it is. Alexander, hello. Yeah, it's the second conditional. The second conditional. We're imagining a future. So, oh, we had a mix of answers there. Yeah. So, Helen, I can see why you went with third there, because we've got had in the if clause. So it looks a little bit like a third conditional, but it's not. It's simply using the past subjunctive form of the verb have. Third conditional would be if you had had a YouTube channel. So let's see. I'll just put in fact, maybe I'll share my screen for this. So first would be if you have a YouTube channel. Second, if you had. And third, if you had had. So we've got the structures here, present simple, past subjunctive, and then we've got the past perfect. So the second conditional, which is what I'm asking here, why does it disappear like that? How strange. Let me get myself out of the way so you can actually see it. The second conditional is imagining. Imagining. If I were to have a YouTube channel, and if I had a YouTube channel, this is an excellent question. Right. So this is something we sometimes do in the second conditional. We use this were to structure. We use that when something is less likely. So if we're on a scale, let's pop that in here. So If I had a YouTube channel, for example, I would talk about, in my case, English. Well, I'm going to leave that blank. You can think about how you would complete that. If I were to have a YouTube channel, I would talk about, so the main clause doesn't change. This one is kind of, we think that it's very unlikely. So this is something, it's unreal. It's like, imagine a parallel world. But I mean, it's possible. You could have a YouTube channel. It's not, sometimes people say that we use the second conditional for things that are impossible, but that's not, I mean, we can, but that's not always the case. Sometimes it's just that we're imagining something different. And when we use this were to structure, it simply means that it's less likely. It's also less common to use this structure. Most of the time, we use this one. If I had. Cool. So what would you talk about? Let me know in the chat. Or maybe you already do have a YouTube channel. I'll be interested to know. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. See, we agree. Nuance is the word. Yeah, it's very subtle. Very subtle. So, let's see. Something very unlikely. Tanya, you have YouTube. I didn't know that. What do you talk about on your YouTube channel? I'll have to check it out. What do I mostly watch on YouTube? I watch videos about how to become successful on YouTube. What else? Sometimes I watch videos on fashion, and I don't really know why, since I'm not actually interested in fashion. But I guess I like the guy who he talks about it. I like his manner. So, yep. So I've got some slides here just to kind of run through some basics on conditionals. And if you have a question, then whack it into the chat. Ooh, miniature painting. That's interesting. That is interesting. Hypocrisy among politicians. Yes. Okay. Interesting. Turner syndrome. I don't know anything about that, but I think anytime that somebody uses a platform to raise awareness about something, particularly conditions that people live with, I think that's great, because we could all do with, being a little bit more empathetic of our fellow human beings and understanding what people go through. So, yeah, I have to check that out for sure. Yeah. Alexander, I tend to stay away from politics on my channel because I don't want to alienate people. But, after all, I'm here to teach you English, not to tell you about my political views. But yeah, I'm not ashamed to say, I'm not secretive about the fact that I'm not a fan of Trump. Right, so I'm going to... Hideaki. Voice training and how to practice music. I could benefit from that. I'm a terrible singer. Terrible. I'd love to be able to sing, but sadly, that's just, it's not I was not blessed with that talent, unfortunately. This is very true. Yeah, it's amazing to me that, you know, a man who everyone knows is a criminal has such a position of power. Ahmed, hello. Thank you for joining me. Cool, cool. So I'm going to add this back onto the stage. Alrighty, so I'm just going to start running through the different conditionals. And if you have a question, feel free to jump in, put it in the chat. Mixed conditionals, yes. So I'm going to tell you about those. I'm not going to spend a long time on these slides because these are just kind of the basics. Okay, so what I really want is to answer your questions. So be sure to, don't be shy. Right, so let's start by looking at the zero. We use this for general truths, scientific facts. Vitali, hello. Wait a second. Vitali, or is that, no, I'm getting confused. Is that Eugene? I fail to remember who is it that has the name that I don't recognize. Vitali, I think that's you. Correct me if I'm wrong. So we use the zero conditional to talk about general truths, scientific facts, or routines. And it's structured with the present simple in both clauses. So if you heat water to 100 degrees, it boils. This is a fairly standard example. It's a fact. And water doesn't boil unless it reaches 100 degrees. So we can also use unless, which is like saying if it doesn't. When I don't sleep well, I get grumpy. Again, another fact. And I'm not sleeping particularly well at the moment because the guy upstairs keeps waking me up. It's noisy. You can also use as long as, provided, or providing. Providing it's regularly maintained, this machine is reliable. And providing means only if. So a few alternatives to if here. And yeah, do let me know if you have any questions about this particular conditional. It's often used in instructions. If you press the red button, the building will explode. Don't press the red button. This obvious for zero condition. Oh, nice. Yeah, I like that. Cool. So let's move on. And again, if a question comes to you, feel free to ask. Let's talk a little bit about the first conditional. So we use this for real or possible future situations. We also use it for the present, but I'm going to talk about the future first. So here we have the present simple and then the bare infinitive. If it rains tomorrow, we'll stay home. I don't think it's going to rain tomorrow here. I think it's about, well, it's over 30 degrees here today, I believe. No? It's a type of statement or structure. How do they present it? I think I've only seen it sort of referred to in this way. Unless it rains tomorrow, we'll go out. So here again, if it doesn't rain. You can also say when or as soon as. When he gets home, he'll call you. So when we use when, we are sure that the condition will be fulfilled. And what would be the difference between when and as soon as? What do you think? Let me know your thoughts. whack that in the questions. When or as soon as, what is the difference? Ooh, I've just told you immediately when. Ah, yes, yeah, nice. Let's pop that up there. Yeah, cause and effect, absolutely. When I eat shrimps, I get indigestion. Ooh, shrimp. I love seafood. Apologies to any vegetarians watching this. So yeah, as soon as is immediately after, in the moment that you don't wait. So when he gets home, he'll call you. Maybe he'll get home and he'll make a cup of tea if he's English or Irish, and then he'll call you. But as soon as he gets home, he'll call you. He won't make a cup of tea. He'll call you immediately. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Cool. And again, we can use this as long as, provided, or providing. So this is the stronger condition, only if. I'll lend you my bike as long as, or only if you return it by 6. If you don't return it by 6, you can't have it. I'm not lending it to you. So that is for future situations. But we also use it to talk about present states with immediate future consequences. So, and the structure is the same, except that we, like here, we've got action verbs, haven't we? We've got rain, get home, lend, return, sorry. These are all actions, whereas here we're using stative verbs, typically be. If you're tired now, I'll drive. So this is also very common. Unless you need my help now, I'll head home. Head home is just a very common way of saying I'll go home. To head somewhere is to go somewhere. So we quite often say, where are you heading? Where are you going? I'm just heading to the shops. Just going to the shops. Very common. So if you don't need my help, I'll head home. And as long as, again, we can use that. As long as you agree, I'll cancel the meeting. So only if you agree, I will cancel the meeting. Head over to my Instagram. Yeah, of course, when people have, I wonder what you guys think about this. Let me know. So as I mentioned earlier, I watch YouTube videos about how to become successful on YouTube because I would love to be able to do this full time. At the moment, it's just a hobby. So where am I going with it? Oh, yeah. Sometimes people will try to direct people to their other social media channels. I do it sometimes because I have Instagram and I have TikTok as well, although YouTube is my main focus because ultimately I prefer making longer videos. But some people say that you shouldn't try to get people to sort of visit your other social media channels because here comes a conditional. If somebody enjoys the short content of Instagram, for example, and you send them over to YouTube to watch a longer video, they're not going to watch your longer video. They're going to switch it off because they don't have that attention span for the longer content, which is, it hurts your video if people start and then turn it off. So, yeah. We do. We say, where are you headed? as well, rather than where are you heading, in which direction are you headed, where are you headed. It's funny, there are a few verbs we do this with, like we use the participle. Sit is another one. I'm sat at the computer rather than I'm sitting at the computer. That's quite common. So what do you think? I mean, do you guys watch, do you use more than one social media channel? And if you're watching something on Instagram, a short video, or TikTok, would you then be open to watching a longer video on YouTube, or vice versa? I don't know. Let me know. Start IELTS training online. Your audience could boost. Yes, that's true. That's true. I have some stuff that's sort of helpful for IELTS training, but I haven't really focused on it thus far. Yeah, me too. Yeah, stood. That's another one. I'm stood. I'm sat. I'm stood. Some people might say, well, it's not correct, but actually it's very, very natural in English. Very normal, very natural. Cool. Let me get back to... So that was our first conditional. So Tanya, you're more into longer videos too. Yeah, me too. Ah, okay. Mr. Hyde, if you haven't seen my video on inverted conditionals, check that out because that'll be useful for you for IELTS. Cool. Yeah. Same. When I try to do well, I do create short content, but I find it difficult to stop talking. Let's have a look at the second conditional. You have a cutoff point about 12 minutes, I see. Yeah. Sometimes I watch really long videos, but then I watch YouTube on my television. And I think if you do that, you're more likely to watch a longer video than if you've got it on your phone, for example, because you want to get up and do things. Right. So the second conditional, unreal hypothetical situations in the present or future. And remember, if you have a question, put it in the chat. Can a watch later list actually be full? Like, is there a limit? I've got quite a lot of things on my watch later list as well. Let's see. So for the second conditional, we use the past subject. My goodness. 5,000. That's crazy. My watch later list is not that full. I don't have quite that many. Wow, 5,000. So the second conditional, we use the past subjunctive. I often say the past simple, and that is because it is basically the same as the past simple. The only difference between the past subjunctive and the past simple is that we don't use was in the subjunctive. So that's nowadays in spoken English, you will hear people say was. They'll say, if I was you, or if I was a millionaire. Don't do it if you've got an exam. Strictly speaking, it's not correct, but it's very normal and natural in spoken English. So yeah, it's fine, but not if you're being examined or you're in a particularly formal situation. I mean, I don't use it. I always teach people not to use it, really, but you can. It's not a cardinal sin. So let's talk about how this is used for the present. So we've got our stative verb here. If I were you now, I'd take the job. We can also use even if. Even if I had enough time, I wouldn't do that. And so this is a very strong condition here, even if. And for questions, we can use supposing. Supposing you were a superhero, what would your superpower be? So in all these cases, we're using stative verbs. Have, time, have in this case is possessive. So it's a stative verb. I don't have time, but if I did have time, I wouldn't do that. If I were a superhero, I would be able to speak every language. So I think that would be great. How about you? If you were a superhero, or supposing you were a superhero, what would your superpower be? I always get some interesting answers to this question. So that is the second conditional for the present, but we also use it for the future. So the structure is the same. If I won the lottery, I'd travel the world. Hi, Mohammed. Thank you for joining me. I would travel the world. This is true. I'd love to win the lottery, but I haven't bought a ticket for a while. Let's see. Even if I won the lottery, I wouldn't buy a sports car. True story. Not interested in cars. It's like I'm almost blind when it comes to cars. I don't even see them. My brother picked me up from the station once and I said to him, "Oh, is this a new car?" He said, "No, Emma, it's the same car I've picked you up in for like the last 10 years. Like, oops. Yeah. A good friend of mine has a Porsche, which of course I understand is a good car, but I don't like it. It's too low and it's not practical. Let's get me out of the way. Supposing you won the lottery, what would you do? Nice. Ability to fly. Yeah, that would be a good one. Interesting. Supposing I had to. Yeah, what would be the implications of not being human anymore? People would treat you differently, for sure. And if you had superpowers, would you let people know or would you keep them secret? I think in the case of being able to speak every language, I probably wouldn't, I don't know, I wouldn't talk about it. I'd use it, use the ability, but I don't think I'd frame it as a superpower. Speak with animals. Nice. Yeah, this is a good question. Usually when we use an adjective, when we use a noun as an adjective, in the case of sports car, we use the singular form, but there are exceptions and sports car is one of them. An American gold visa. Yeah. I don't think I would. I think maybe I'd get myself a Spanish golden visa because at the moment, although I'm a permanent resident, I'm still subject to certain rules that, there's a limit to how much time I can spend outside the country. Yeah. Ahmed, good question. So it is Thursday at 3:30, and that's Spanish time, or currently Central European Summer Time, that we have the live stream. So every Thursday. Yeah, exactly. People would just think that I was really clever. Which of course I am. Oh, dear. Yep. Cool. So that is the second conditional. Let's talk about the third. Yeah. So a lot of people sort of, I think, have this idea, I'd buy a visa. It would be lovely, wouldn't it, to be able to go wherever we wanted, to live wherever we wanted without constraints. And of course, it just isn't practical for everyone to be able to do that, but it would be nice. Teleportation, that's another good one. If I had a superpower, I'd like to be able to teleport, just, like go, I'm here right now, and then boom, suddenly I'm in Fiji on the beach without having to fly. That would be nice. Yeah. You are very welcome. So let me get back there to the third conditional. Sometimes people struggle with this one. Here we're talking about the unreal past. So things that did not happen and their imagined results. We often use this when we feel bad about something. We've had some kind of negative consequence. So we have the past perfect in the if clause, and then would have and the past participle. If I had studied harder, I would have passed the exam, but I didn't study and I didn't pass. So I'm feeling bad about the fact that I didn't study and I didn't pass, and I'm imagining a different past where I had studied. You can also use even if I'd studied harder, I would have failed. It's rather a depressing example, isn't it? So, supposing they'd offered you the job, would you have taken it? So we can use this supposing as well to ask a hypothetical question. They didn't offer you the job, but supposing they had, would you have taken it? What would you have done? So let's talk about the mixed ones. And remember, any questions, put them in the chat. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's definitely a tricky one for a lot of people to get their head around. The way I think of it is, have you ever done something you wish you hadn't done? It's that kind of situation. Imagine you ate too much and now you feel sick. You might say, oof, I wish I hadn't eaten so much. If I hadn't eaten so much, I wouldn't, well, that's a mixed one actually. I wouldn't feel sick now. So that's mixed, forget that. But perhaps if I hadn't eaten so much, I wouldn't have actually been sick in the past. So there are two ways we can mix the conditionals, and it's always the second and third conditional that we mix. So we can imagine how a different past could result in a different present. So we've got the third conditional if clause with the past perfect, and then we've got would and the bare infinitive, like in the second conditional. If I had taken that course in the past, I would know more now. But I didn't take that course, and I don't know more. So it's a hypothetical, unreal. The mixed conditionals always deal with unreality, things that didn't happen or aren't true. Even if you'd asked nicely, I wouldn't say yes. Imagine someone's asked you to do something that you absolutely, are not okay with. Supposing you had taken that job in the past, where would you be now? So we've got our past, sort of imaginary past. You didn't take the job, but supposing you had, where would you be now? Like, I can think of a job that I was offered a long time ago. It was actually in the intelligence service. If I'd taken it, I would probably be in England now, not in Spain. A long time ago. And we can do it the other way around. So we can have the unreal present imagining an unreal past. So we're imagining how a different present could have changed the past. And here we have the second conditional if clause and then the third conditional main clause. So let's see an example. And remember, we don't use was. If I were more confident, I would have spoken up at work. I would have said my opinion. But I'm not more confident, and I didn't speak up at work. So we're talking about something that isn't real. Even if I were rich, I wouldn't have bought that house. So imagine, yeah, good question there. No, there is no difference. The only difference is that we don't use was. And that's it. Apart from that, it's all exactly the same. So the easiest way for a lot of people to think of the second conditional is if plus the past simple, because most of the time it is. But don't use was. Supposing you were in my shoes now, what would you have done? What would you have done in the past? So you've just had a crash course in conditionals. Let me know if you have any questions. That is what we're here for. I will do my best to answer them. I wonder. I mean, we've all imagined, haven't we, different present, a different past. Like, I didn't live in Spain, if I hadn't moved to Spain, supposing you'd been in my shoes, yeah, that would also work there. Yeah. So supposing you were in my shoes, supposing you were in my situation, in this case, the situation is ongoing. If you said, supposing you had been in my shoes, presumably that situation is finished, it's past. It's not ongoing. So that would just be a standard third conditional. You can use also the continuous tenses, but we're still essentially mixing the second and the third conditionals. It's a really good website, actually, somewhere. Let me see if I can find it for you. Alrighty. So this is a really good website, englishpage.com. I don't actually know how the website is for kind of other things, but it has a nice explanation of mixed conditionals that could help you. So if you have watched my YouTube videos, so yeah, we'll come to that in a second. So you could also say, we could sort of talk about the past plus the future. So like if you had if you had bought a ticket, you would be going with me to the concert, for example. So that's another way we can mix them. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, so here we've got the unreal past with the third conditional if clause, the past perfect, had bought. If you had bought a ticket, and then we're using a future form, you would be going with me to the concert next week or whenever. Cool, yeah, some interesting questions here. If you have watched my YouTube videos, yeah. So we've got the present perfect tense here, haven't we? You could say this is a fact. If you have watched my YouTube videos, have we got an ending there or shall I add one? No, okay, I'll add one. You will know that I teach English, for example. I have to ponder that one. I might have to do a separate video on that one and have a little think about it. Should instead of if, what's it called in grammatical terms? Yeah, this is inversion. This is inverted first conditional. So I just posted a little video about this. If you have any more questions, please contact me. Should you have any? To contact me. So this is a standard inverted first conditional. It's very, very common. Yeah, very, very common in written English, formal English. Yeah, you're welcome. And I posted a video about inversion in conditionals on Sunday, last Sunday. So check that out. And in fact, today I posted a short video that's specifically about this particular topic, inversion in the first conditional. So we get rid of the if and we use should instead. And that's it. You also have to make sure that you change the verb. So in this case, it's not necessary because the subject is you. But if you had he, she, or it, you would have to change it. For example, if you said, if he has any more, or if he has any questions, tell him to call me. Should, which I can't type, should he have any questions? So when we invert the first conditional, we get rid of if, we use should, and we use the bare infinitive, not the present simple. We always use the bare infinitive after modal verbs like should or could, etc. Yeah. Will you have any further questions? Should you have any questions? It's less direct and less likely. No. So in the inversion, it's not less likely. It is not less likely. So that's an interesting point relating to this. In the inversion, it's simply more polite and more formal. So let's take a look at this. Were you to have any further questions? Let's zoom up there. So were you to have any further questions? Let's look at it not inverted first. If you were to have any further questions. In fact, let's put a third version there. If you have any further questions, well, yeah, if you had any further questions. So in all of these cases, we're using the second conditional. This one is standard. This one is less likely. This one is inverted, which is kind of emphatic or dramatic or formal. So there is that difference there. If you had any further questions, I don't expect you to have any further questions. Were you to have any further questions, I'd answer them if you were to have any further questions, but I don't think you will have any further questions. It'd be a bit of a strange one with have any further questions, because that's something that's quite likely to happen. If you got the job, well, let's see. Would you take it? If you were to get the job, would you take it? In this case, kind of, I really don't think you'll get it. So this is more kind of formal, dramatic, or emphatic. So imagine somebody says to you, I don't think I'm going to get that job. You might respond, well, were you to get it, would you take it? Because you want to add some drama, some emphasis there. Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, with the inverted first conditional, you absolutely do have to be careful. Just think of it with, if you're following a modal verb like should, then you need to use the bare infinitive. You would never say should he has, or would he has. It doesn't work. It's always going to be the bare infinitive after a modal verb. Yeah. If you should have any questions, should you have any questions? Yeah. So both of these are quite formal. Should you have any questions? If you should have any questions. The inverted form is kind of that extra level of formality there. So you could say to someone, if you should have any questions, then let me know. But should you have any questions is just extra formal. On the off chance you get the job, yeah, I think it's very unlikely that you'll get the job. Don't get your hopes up, or don't hold your breath, people might say in that case. Way to get the job, yeah. On the off chance you get the job, would you take it? Had to buttoned up. Well, yeah. It depends on the context and the situation. If you're in a formal context, then the inverted conditionals are fine. It's something that often pops up in these use of English parts of exams. So if you are preparing for an exam like a C1 or a C2 exam, like the Cambridge Chi or CPE, then inversion often pops up in the use of English. So you need to know it then. In terms of IELTS, if you're doing the IELTS general exam, writing part 1 has a formal letter or email sort of, so it's a good idea, especially the first conditional with that should you. It's the kind of thing you get in customer services or in receptions when you go to the dentist, or the doctors or something like that, then they might use it. Or when you get an email from the airline, should your flight be delayed, we will contact you immediately. Yeah, so completely depends. And of course, if you work in customer service, any kind of customer-facing role, then this extra level of politeness is always a good idea. But yeah, in normal everyday contexts, we tend not to use the inverted forms unless we're really wanting to add emphasis, like that situation with the job. I'm not going to get the job. Oh, come on, were you to get it? You know, what would you do? So we want to emphasize there. I realize we are running low on time. So just kind of recapping, there was that question about the present perfect tense in conditionals, which kind of threw me a little bit. I'm trying to think, where do we categorize that? We'll have to ponder that, perhaps do a little video on it when I've thought about it. Time to land this plane, yes. Yeah. It is. It is. Cool. Right. So although this live stream is finishing now, if you have any other questions about conditionals, put them in the comments and I'll address them. In fact, in the next couple of weeks, not this weekend, I think I'm going to do something else, but in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to create a conditionals masterclass video. So if you have any questions about conditionals, ask them here in the comments to this stream and I'll incorporate them. So I'll incorporate that use of the present perfect into the video that I make. The class was helpful, not the class has been helpful. Yeah. Interesting. Yes, the class was helpful because the class is finished. It's completely finished. It has been a pleasure. Well, after the class, actually, when the class is finished, I would say it was a pleasure. So, like saying now, because we're still talking, I would use the present perfect and say, it's been a pleasure, or the class has been helpful. But if you were to say that once the stream has ended in a few minutes' time, then you would say it was a pleasure and the class was helpful. Oh, Jesus, yeah, me too. In the if clause, yeah, a lot of people do that. Native English speakers, they say, if I would have got up earlier, I wouldn't have been late. It's not correct, strictly speaking, but it is very, very common. My best friend does it, actually. And yeah, I do. Well, I don't anymore. We did have a conversation about it once. But yeah, she uses it a lot. And that's fine. It's common in spoken English. Don't do it in an exam. Yep. Yeah. Indeed. Cool. Mr. Hyde, you are welcome. Right, guys, have a fabulous rest of the day. And remember, any more questions come to mind, comment them to this live stream and I'll address them when I make like a proper video about the topic. Cool. Thanks for joining me. Thank you to my channel members as well for supporting the channel. Fabulous. Bye, guys.